Hi, my name's Phil. I like talking about politics, and in this video I'll be taking my usual look at Prime Minister's questions from yesterday as Boris Johnson, not for the first time, decided to blame Labour for the last 12 years of Tory policies, leaving us in the cost of living squeeze that millions of people find themselves in now. But first, if you'd like to be notified of daily news and politics, please subscribe to the channel and click the bell notification icon. So I'm going to get straight into the first question really here, because it drew a response from Boris Johnson that I do want to discuss in a little detail because it's cropping up a lot. And I will also add, it was another bumper crop of lies from Johnson, including the one about being the fastest growing economy in the G7 again. But I'm going to leave the lies alone and focus on the contradictions and lack of leadership in his responses here. So Keir Starmer for Labour said that the typical energy bill is about to go up by £700 next month, and that the government had offered a £200 loan on the assumption that prices had fallen. He asked when the Prime Minister would tell his Chancellor to U-turn on this policy. Now, in response, Boris Johnson and his front bench laughed. As Keir Starmer was describing the cost of living rise that's about to hit people, their response was to laugh. They think it's hilarious that people are not going to know how to pay their bills. But Johnson also said two things that are absolutely characteristic of the way he tries to deflect difficult questions about his government. The first part of his response was to say that he will be setting out an energy independence plan. Absolutely typical of him. Always with Boris Johnson, he's going to have a plan. He's never able to say what he has done. He can never defend his record because he hasn't got one. And he can't ever say what he's doing. It's always the future tense because he never does anything. He's been Prime Minister for nearly 3 years. His party have been in government for nearly 12. You would think that both he and his party have had plenty of time to be implementing key policies by now. They should not still be promising a plan at some unspecified point in the future. And then the second part of his statement was to blame Labour for the current situation. He said that his plan would reverse mistakes made in the past. Now here's the thing. Like I say, his party has been in power for 12 years and he's been in power for 3 years. If he thinks Labour made such terrible errors, these mistakes that need reversing, why has he not already corrected them? He's had the time, after all. But this is the way Boris Johnson operates. He promises a plan in the future and he blames a party that has not held power for 12 years for the present. Nowhere in either of these components of what is becoming a fairly regular response is any semblance of responsibility himself. And I remind people, in the 2019 general election campaign, Boris Johnson, who was leading a minority government at the time, complained that he couldn't get things done because he didn't have the numbers in Parliament. Give me a majority, he told the electorate, and he would be free to get things done. He was given a massive majority by a minority of voters, sure, but he has his numbers. So why can't he actually get things done now? Why is it always something else that's constraining him? Why is it always looking to blame instead of getting stuff done? Now, sometimes leaders, especially political leaders, do have things to deal with that are some other bugger's fault. But leaders just look at the problem and work out the best solution and apply it. There's no issue of blame. Blame's irrelevant. What's the problem? How can we deal with it? Right, that solution looks best to me. They don't look for someone to blame and then sit down and have a drink. And this was the pattern for the remaining questions as well. Starmer was trying to say to the Prime Minister, look, the cost of living is rising above the level at which millions of people can handle it. There are ways of reducing that rise in the cost of living. The government have got levers here. Will you use any of them? That was it. Now, PMQs obviously has political bun fights, but there was no blaming the Prime Minister or the Conservatives for the current situation. Starmer didn't fire back saying, I think you'll find the Conservatives are in power for 12 years. It's your fault. You're to blame. He just went for, let's bypass all that. Problem, solution. Can you apply it? You know, and a quick comparison with other comparable countries with the same issues leaves it clear that there are things the government can do, because other governments have done things. You know, and as part of Starmer's what he calls constructive opposition approach, all he was doing was stating solutions. He was saying what he would do as head of government. And that's enough of a political hit to be scoring, quite frankly. Because I've said it before, like normally in PMQs, it's an argument about which side has the best plan. So generally the way it works is the government say, we're going to put this plan in place to deal with this problem. The opposition, whoever it is at the time, will say, well, we think our plan is better. And then when the plan's implemented, if it didn't work out at all well, or didn't meet expectations, then the opposition say our plan would have done better, and they will hope to go into the next election on that basis. Or if the plan sort of works, the opposition will still say, yeah, but our plan would have worked better. You know, but this is not the case here. It's simply Labour offering a plan and the Conservatives saying, yeah, we'll get round to a plan at some point in the future. You know, Labour will suggest their solution. The Conservatives will argue that theirs is better, but you can't have it just yet. Absolute madness. And Starmer talked about the huge profits being made by energy companies. Tax those profits, he said. Money. Johnson tried to say that this would put the bills up even higher, which is a shameless lie, as we know that France applied a windfall tax and kept French energy bills right down. Yes, France is also less reliant upon gas for its power, but the fact of the matter is that they still applied a windfall tax and the bills did not rise, as Johnson is suggesting they would here, and they've been able to give their citizens payments, not loans, payments, checks in the post. Starmer said, and I quote on this one, he says, we'll see how long that position lasts. And I think what he's confident here, what he's thinking here is Johnson is allowing himself to be led into a trap of his own making. It's all right blaming others, but when people cannot afford to maintain their current standard of living, they will expect the government to do something. Like life can get crapper, and and governments can get away with blaming some bugger else as if there's nothing that can be really done about it. When people have to fundamentally downgrade their standard of living, they're going to resist that. They are going to expect something to be done. And if the government say there's nothing we can do, and the opposition say, well, there's something we could do if we were in government, then the nasty party often gets away with their nastiness by crushing people in small enough numbers or amongst populations that won't affect their electoral success. And they understand this as well. They know what they're doing. It's why they bolstered the benefit system a little when they realised during the first COVID lockdown that loads of middle class voters were going to be seeing the brutality of the Department for Work and Pensions firsthand. The same thing is going to happen here. People are going to have to cut back. Millions more are going to be plunged into poverty. Those who are already in poverty, I do not know how they are to manage. And for all the talk of Putin wanting the Soviet Union back, we're an advanced case. We are descending into a Soviet-era style of privation. And it is happening in a short enough period to a large enough part of the population that it will be politically unsustainable. Johnson cannot brazen this policy out. You know, the day before Labour forced a vote on a cut to national insurance, it won, with the support of a number of Conservative MPs who want the government to U-turn on it. Now, it's not binding, so the government get to ignore it, which is what they've done. But it's another squeeze on the cost of living that the government are applying, despite now a majority of MPs being against it. But Johnson insisting on blaming others and promising to do something himself, it's what he does. And he continues to do nothing. And I think we need to keep hammering this point home. People hopefully will then start to see that nothing will ever get done with this clown in charge. Then on to Ian Blackford of the SNP, who he took a different issue. He decided to press Johnson on our shameful dealing with Ukrainian refugees. He gave figures for some of the countries in Europe that were taken in tens or even hundreds of thousands, while we had managed fewer than 1,000. I mean, Boris Johnson had tried to come back and go, we've got nearly 1,000. Have we? Have we? You know, Johnson, that's all he could respond with. But he also said he expects the numbers to rise sharply. Oh, yeah. It's going to go up now. It's going to go up. You just watch. Now, hopefully this will be true. But again, note, what is he doing? He's promising better for the future. He's not able to defend a record because his record is dreadful. He didn't even apologise for the slow start and say that we should do a lot better in future. That would at least demonstrate some small measure of leadership. But no. Blackford pressed Johnson on the urgency of the situation. He said people are fleeing war crimes and that the Home Secretary is blocking them with bureaucracy. He said the Home Office is offering bureaucracy when it should be offering compassion. And he urged the government to waive visa restrictions. To which Johnson then said, The government's record is unparalleled. It is, isn't it? Actually, he's right about that one. He's right there, yeah. No other comparable country has done anywhere near as badly as we have. Yeah, absolutely unparalleled. He also said that the UK is the single biggest donor of humanitarian aid to Ukraine. Now, what does he mean by this? We have certainly promised the largest individual sum of money for humanitarian aid. That is true. Absolutely. But that money has not been provided yet. It's just been pledged. The humanitarian aid needed now is not just money either, but care. We need to help shelter those fleeing bombs, and on that front, we are the worst European country outside of the Russosphere. And it was also not a response that bothered to address the question. The idea of a visa waiver is not an SNP policy that the Conservatives disagree with. It is a policy adopted by basically the entire continent. You know, what is it that we know or fear that dozens of countries from east to west in Europe do not? And I will just add in a response to Ed Davey as well, the leader of the Liberal Democrats, because he asked about the same thing. And Johnson tried the old todge about it letting in Russian spies. Oh, you can't just waive the visas. You might let Russian spies in. As if on a visa application there's a question that says, are you a Russian spy? And old Sergei will be there going, oh. They're on to us, let's give it up. But as people pointed out, if Russian spies want to come to the UK, they will come to the UK. Indeed, we had Russian agents come to the UK on at least 2 very notable occasions and murder Putin's enemies on our soil. Boris Johnson's response to one of those was to go to a party hosted by a Russian oligarch with close links to Putin. So now, that excuse is nonsense. But there we are. Those are my thoughts. Let me know yours in the comments below. I hope you found the video interesting. If you did, don't forget to click the like button. And if you'd like to support the channel further, please also click the Patreon link for details. And until next time, I'll see you later.